He buried her alive for her fortune, but when she rose from the earth, she didn't come back to haunt him. She came back to dismantle his entire life piece by piece.
You buried me, Joe. But I'm not done.
I woke up underground on a storm-lashed night. Not from a nightmare, not from a dream, from 6 feet of packed earth and betrayal. For months, I'd sipped the tea my husband brewed with a tender smile and a whispered for your health. For months, I'd been one microdose closer to a collapse that would look like quiet surrender to illness. And the worst part, he wasn't even doing it for us. Your husband poisoned your tea? No, it can't be. He was doing it for escape. My escape. From me. But here's what Joe didn't know. I clawed my way out of that shallow grave 3 days before he toasted my passing at a candlelit wake. I uncovered his 3 mistresses. I uncovered his secret crypto scams. I uncovered the $500,000 he'd funneled from my designs into his shadows. And I uncovered his blueprint to vanish to the Caymans solo, with my fortune as his launchpad. So, I did something he never saw rising. I tracked his mistresses. Not to claw at them, not to curse them, but to whisper 5 words. 5 words that unearthed everything. Let's exhume him together. I'm Jasmine, and this is the story of how I turned my husband's mistresses into my resurrection squad and shoveled his empire into the dirt he shoveled over me. Stay with me to unearth how this buried nightmare broke ground. And make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a tale like this. Sit back as we dig back to how it all began. Jasmine's life looked like something straight out of a design catalog. Elegant loft in a skyline view high-rise, with sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows onto bespoke furniture she'd curated herself. Charming husband who charmed clients at her side during gallery openings. A bright 8-year-old son who was her canvas, her light, her everything. Weekend mornings hummed with fresh-pressed juice and sketches for new projects. Client dinners unfolded every Thursday under crystal chandeliers. Family puzzle nights every Sunday, where they'd piece together worlds while laughter echoed off the walls. Picture perfect. The kind of marriage that made other designers sigh in admiration. The kind of life that screamed curated bliss. But as Jasmine was about to unearth, perfect was just another word for interred. And her entire world, it was the biggest plot twist ever buried. Rain lashed the woods like 1,000 tiny whips, turning the earth into a slick, sucking mire that clawed at my bare feet. I staggered forward, every muscle screaming, lungs burning with the metallic tang of storm-soaked air. Behind me, the grave yawned open, a ragged wound in the soil, my shroud of a white silk nightgown caked in mud, torn at the hem where roots had snagged during my desperate climb. Lightning cracked the sky, illuminating the silhouette I'd glimpsed just moments ago. Joe, shovel in hand, standing at the tree-lean like a shadow puppet in some macabre play. His smile, God, that smile, had lingered in the flash, wide and relieved, as if he'd just finished planting a troublesome weed. He thinks I'm gone. Fertilizer for his fresh start. I didn't scream. Didn't charge him with whatever feral strength had gotten me this far. No, I melted into the underbrush, heart hammering a war drum against my ribs. The property sprawled for acres here. Our weekend retreat, he'd called it, a secluded estate on the outskirts of the city, bought with my first big commission from that luxury hotel chain. Irony tasted like dirt on my tongue. I knew these woods from lazy autumn hikes with our son, Eli, his small hand in mine as Joe trailed behind, cracking jokes about building a treehouse empire. Now they were my labyrinth, my temporary salvation. Crouching low, I wove through ferns and fallen branches, the storm masking my ragged breaths. 50 yards in, a hulking shape loomed through the downpour. The old groundskeeper's shed, abandoned since we'd let the staff go last year to tighten the budget. Joe had laughed about it over dinner, his hand warm on my knee. Asterisk streamlining for the future, Jazz. You and me against the world. Asterisk the door hung ajar on rusted hinges, and I slipped inside like a thief in my own life. The air inside was thick with mildew and the faint rot of forgotten tools. Spades leaning against walls like drunken soldiers, coils of rope sagging from hooks, a workbench scarred by years of neglect. I bolted the door with trembling fingers, then collapsed against a stack of moldy tarps, sliding to the splintered floor. For the first time since waking in that suffocating dark, I let myself feel it all crash in. My body was a map of ruin, nails jagged and bloody from clawing through coffin-lid and soil, skin scraped raw where I'd wriggled like a worm toward light. My throat burned, raw from screams that had echoed only in my skull. And my head. Oh, the fog lingered, that insidious haze that had plagued me for weeks, turning sharp edges of my mind into cotton wool. I pressed filthy palms to my temples, willing the world to steady. That's when the memories clawed their way up, unbidden, like roots seeking sunlight. Our wedding in the Hamptons, Joe in that tailored tux, eyes locked on mine as he vowed to build dreams with me, not just design them. Asterisk, you're my muse, Jazz. My everything. Asterisk, the way he'd sweep into my studio after a long day, arms full of takeout from that hole-in-the-wall Thai place, spinning me in a dance to whatever playlist I'd curated. Eli's birth. Joe in the delivery room, tears streaming as he held our son, whispering, "Look what we made, perfect as your sketches." Client meetings where he'd flash that megawatt grin, sealing deals I couldn't quite close with my quiet precision. Date nights in the loft, city lights winking like conspirators below, his fingers tracing the curve of my shoulder as we talked about expanding the firm. Asterisk, Jasmine judged designs, with Cole in the name. Partners in every sense. Asterisk, it had been effortless, intoxicating. He made me feel seen, not just as the visionary with the Midas touch for interiors, but as a woman who deserved the poetry of partnership. But poetry has drafts, and ours had been revised in the margins I never saw. The fog, it started subtly 3 months back. Mornings where I'd stare at blueprints, words blurring like watercolor in rain. Headaches that Joe dismissed with a kiss and a chamomile tea, brewed strong just how I liked it. Asterisk, burnout, babe. You're a force, even forces need recharging. Asterisk, I'd trusted him, of course. He handled the little things, refilling my prescriptions for the migraines that had dogged me since Eli's colicky days, the ones with the beta blockers that kept my blood pressure steady under deadline stress. He'd pop the bottle open with that casual flick, pour my dose into my palm, watch me swallow with a proud nod. Teamwork makes the dream work. Now, huddled in the shed's gloom, pieces slotted into place like a puzzle I'd been too dazed to solve. The empty pill bottle. I'd glimpsed it on the nightstand that last night, label peeled just enough to hide the generic print. Not my beta blockers. Something else. Sedatives, maybe. Strong ones, the kind that build in your system, eroding will and wakefulness until you slip away like a sigh. Microdoses in my tea, disguised as care. He'd been unraveling me thread by thread, making me the fragile wife in photos he'd soon circulate. Asterisk, Jasmine's been battling her health quietly. She's at peace now. Asterisk, my stomach roiled, bile rising sharp. Not illness. Poison. His poison, patient and precise, turning our love story into his alibi. And the funeral, flashes hit like lightning strikes. No hospital blur, no beeping monitors. Just that velvet-lined haze before the dirt. I'd overheard him on the phone once, weeks ago, voice muffled through the bathroom door. Asterisk, yeah, private ceremony. Family only. No need for the fuss. Jazz wouldn't want it. Asterisk, no autopsy. He'd insisted to the officiant, citing my wishes in a forged letter I'd never penned. The death certificate, e-signature, his doing, time-stamped hours after I'd passed in our bed. Eli shielded at a sleepover, to spare him the grief. Friends murmuring condolences over wine he'd poured, toasting my legacy, while he pocketed the first wire transfer from my accounts. No body on display, just a sleek urn of ash from the estate's old fireplace, he'd joked later in my nightmares. Cremation, swift and silent. Except there were no flames. Just this hole in the woods, shallow because he couldn't bear to dig deeper in the rain-slick night. I curled into myself then, nails digging crescents into my palms until blood welled warm. The perfect marriage? A diorama, meticulously staged. Joe's charm. The varnish overwrought. He'd buried me. Not with hate's fury, but calculation's chill. My designs, my fortune, my son, reclaimed as his solo exhibit. Eli. God, Eli, where was he now? Safe with the sitter, probably, spun a tale of Mommy's sudden trip. The thought ignited something primal, a spark in the damp ashes of my chest. No, I wouldn't call the cops, not yet. They'd exhume questions, drag Eli through headlines, give Joe the martyr's stage to charm his way free. A grieving husband, officers, tragedy broke me. Forgiveness? That grave had sealed it shut. No, this ending I'd write myself. With every tool in this shed, every shadow in these woods. Vengeance, slow and surgical, like the poison he'd fed me. I'd unearth his secrets, one layer at a time, until he was the one gasping in the dark. Asterisk, he buried the woman I was. I'll bury the man he pretends to be. Asterisk. The oath settled in my bones like bedrock, steadying the tremor in my limbs. I pushed to my feet, ignoring the stab in my side. Cracked rib, maybe, from the coffin lid's splintered edge. The workbench called, cluttered with relics of maintenance Joe always delegated. I rifled drawers, seeking anything useful. A flashlight, its beam weak but defiant. A half roll of duct tape for makeshift bandages. A stained work jacket, oversized but shielding. In the deepest drawer, under a tangle of wrenches, my fingers closed around something sleek and cold. A burner phone, cheap plastic, screen spiderwebbed but alive. Why was it here? Joe's. A groundskeeper's ghost? No time to wonder. The device thrummed in my grip, vibrating like a trapped hornet. Incoming call. Unknown number. Heart slamming anew, I thumbed the answer, breath held shallow as I pressed it to my ear. Yeah, babe, it's been hell. Lost my wife last night. Sudden, you know? Illness took her quick, but damn, it hurts. Joe's voice, velvet over venom, that practiced husk of sorrow. But you talking to you? It's like air after drowning. Meet tonight. My place, our place now. I'll make it worth the drive. The line crackled with her murmur, soft and sympathetic. Widower. He'd already rewritten the script. I didn't breathe. Didn't hang up. I listened, the storm outside fading to a hiss. And in that shed, buried alive no more, I began to dig. The call ended with a click that echoed like a latch snapping shut on a crypt. Joe's voice lingered in the static, smooth as polished marble, dripping with that feigned vulnerability he'd perfected over aperitifs and alibis. Widower. The word slithered through me, coiling tight around my ribs. I killed the phone's screen with a thumb that still trembled, then tucked it into the work jacket's pocket. Evidence, not indulgence. The storm had eased to a sullen drizzle outside, pattering on the shed's tin roof like impatient fingers. Dawn clawed at the horizon, gray and unforgiving. I couldn't stay buried here, a mole in my own dirt. Time to exhume the living. Strategic recovery. That's what I whispered to the shadows as I rifled the shed's corners one last time. A rusted utility knife for protection. Its blade nicked but keen enough to remind me I wasn't defenseless anymore. A frayed backpack from some forgotten maintenance kit, stuffed with the flashlight. A half-empty water bottle scavenged from a dusty shelf, and a protein bar wrapper that crinkled like dry leaves underfoot. Clothes were the priority. This mud-caked nightgown was a beacon for questions I couldn't answer. The estate's main house loomed a half-mile trek through the woods, but I skirted it wide, belly-crawling under barbed wire fences that once marked no trespassing for Eli's games of hide-and-seek. Joe's car was gone, tires churning gravel toward the city, no doubt, to console his babe in the flesh. The guest cottage squatted at the property's edge, a quaint folly we'd renovated last summer for overflow clients. Key under the mat, as always. Asterisk trust, Jazz, that's our foundation. Asterisk irony again, bitter as the chill seeping through my skin. Inside, the air hung stale, laced with lavender from forgotten sachets. I raided the wardrobe. Linen pants that hung loose on my frame, a oversized sweater in soft cashmere, someone's cast-off from a design retreat, and sturdy boots that pinched but steadied my steps. In the bathroom mirror, a stranger stared back. Hollow cheeks smudged with soil, eyes ringed purple like bruised plums, hair a tangled nest of what was once waves. I washed in the sink, cold water shocking clarity into my veins. The fog from the sedatives ebbed, leaving razor edges where numbness had been. Good. Clarity was my first weapon. Information next. No direct line to the loft, too risky, too traceable. The nearest town, Willow Creek, was a 5-mile hike along an overgrown service road, the kind Joe used to tease me about during drives. Our secret path to nowhere. Now, it was my vein to the world. By midday, blisters blooming on my heels, I slipped into the public library like a shadow at noon, unseen amid the retirees thumbing paperbacks and teens hunched over laptops. The computers were relics, fans whirring like asthmatic breaths, but they hummed with possibility. I claimed one in the back row, cashing in a forgotten library card from Eli's Story Hour days. Jasmine Judge, still valid. For now. My fingers flew over the keys, pulse a steady thrum. First, the obituaries. There I was, pixelated in black and white elegance from our last holiday card. Asterisk Jasmine Cole, née Judge, beloved designer and mother, passed peacefully at home after a brief illness. Survived by husband Joseph and son Elias. In lieu of flowers, donations to the Arts Foundation. Asterisk brief illness. Peacefully. The lie landed like a spadeful of earth. Comments flooded in. Heartbroken for Joe, such a rock for her. Eli's so lucky to have you now. My accounts. Oh, the transfers hit like aftershocks. Logging into the joint banking app with a password he'd never changed. Asterisk Eli and Jazz forever asterisk. I watched the hemorrhage in real time. $250,000 siphoned to offshore shells, masked as business investments. My firm, asterisk Jasmine Judge Designs asterisk. Rebranded overnight to Cole Creative Collective, with me listed as consultant emeritus. Deeds to the loft, the retreat, even Eli's college fund. All retitled under his name, signatures forged in a flourish too fluid for my precise hand. He'd been pruning me from the roots while I slept. Rage simmered, but I banked it cold. Dig deeper. Social media next, his feed scrubbed clean of me, timeline a curated dirge. Candlelit vigils with friends, solo selfies in our kitchen captioned one foot in front of the other. Then the cracks, tagged photos from mutual contacts, whispers and DMs I'd hack with a forgotten shared login. 3 women emerged like ghosts in the machine, each a thread in his web. First, Lena, the wellness coach, all sun-kissed feeds and smoothie bowls. Joe's comments laced her posts. Miss your energy already. Need a session to shake this grief. Their texts glimpsed through a synced cloud backup I'd salvaged on a whim months ago. Late-night plans for healing hikes. Her offering solace in his loneliest hour. Second, Harper. The divorce attorney, sharp-suited and LinkedIn polished. She'd handled our prenup, back when trust was a given. Now, emails routed through her firm. Asterisk Joe on the custody angle, framing Jasmine's instability, will secure full rights for Eli. Discreet, as always. Asterisk instability. The fog he'd force-fed me. Her weakness. Ambition, the kind that blinded her to the man behind the client. Third, Riley. The crypto whiz, tattoos and tech bro vibes, her Instagram a blur of yacht parties and blockchain brags. Transfers traced back. $150,000 from my accounts into her joint venture with Joe. You're my lucky charm, babe. Widower's intuition says this moonshots. She'd bought the lie wholesale, funding his escape pod to the Caymans. Confront them? No. That was his game, charm and chaos. I listened instead, ear to the ground like roots sensing rain. Public Wi-Fi let me scrape their calendars. Lena's yoga retreats Tuesdays, Harper's court dates Thursdays, Riley's networking mixers Fridays. Weaknesses unfolded like blueprints. Lena's guilt complex, evident in her therapy podcast plugs. Harper's vanity, selfies time-stamped post-victory drinks. Riley's greed, retweets hyping unmissable ROI. Schedules memorized, patterns plotted on a napkin from the library cafe. Entry points, not explosions. I'd be the specter in their inboxes first, anonymous tips laced with proof. Let the doubt fester, then the alliance form. By dusk, as the librarian shooed us out with a weary smile, the decision crystallized in my chest, hard as quartz. I wouldn't kill him quickly. No swift blade through the heart. That mercy was for the living. No, I'd bury him alive in his own lies, one shovelful of truth at a time. Let him claw at the walls of his deceptions, gasping as the air thinned, the women he'd played rising as his jury. Eli shielded, my firm reclaimed, his empire reduced to rubble under my heels. The ghost he'd created? I'd haunt him eternal. Limping back to the cottage under a bruised sky, I paused at the retreat's edge, the grave a distant scar in the fading light. My phone, the burner, charged furtively at the library, pinged with a news alert. Local gala coverage. Cole Creative's Joe Cole lights up annual arts fundraiser. I tapped the video, volume low, breath caught. There he was, tux crisp as a fresh lie, glass raised amid a sea of glittering faces. The camera panned close, capturing that megawatt grin, eyes alight with something feral. To freedom from tragedy, he toasted, voice booming with rehearsed gravitas, the crowd murmuring applause. Jasmine's spirit lives on in every design, every dream we chase. Here's to new beginnings for all of us. He laughed then, threw his head back, the sound tinny through the speaker but unmistakable. Pure, unadulterated relief. Toasting my erasure like vintage champagne. The screen went dark, but in my reflection on its glass, my eyes burned steady. New beginnings? Oh, Joe. Mine was just dawning. The video looped in my mind like a dirge on repeat. Joe's laughter a chisel etching deeper into the fault lines of my resolve. Freedom from tragedy. As if I'd been a footnote, a smudge on his pristine blueprint. I let the burn fuel me through the night, holed up in the cottage with the burner phone as my sentinel. By morning, the plan took root. Not a storm, but roots spreading silent through soil. His women weren't thorns to uproot. They were the leverage points, the cracks where his facade would fracture. I'd approach them not as a vengeful specter, but a mirror, reflecting back the voids he'd carved in them too. One by one. Truth as the spade. Lena first. Her schedule burned into my brain. Tuesday sunrise flows at Willow Creek Park, a ritual of downward dogs and dawn affirmations for her legion of followers. I timed it for the afterglow, when endorphins masked the edges of doubt, dressed in borrowed athleisure from the cottage, loose enough to hide the hollows in my frame. I blended into the periphery, a ghost amid the glowing yoginis rolling up mats. She emerged last, radiant in neon leggings and a cropped hoodie, phone in hand capturing the serenity send-off for her Insta story. Grieving gracefully, the caption would read, no doubt, with a heart emoji and a nod to Joe's support. I intercepted her at the path's fork, casual as a fellow devotee. Lena, that was beautiful. The way you wove breath into intention. Mind if I walk with you? I'm Jasmine. Judge, actually. From the design world. Her eyes lit, the influencer reflex kicking in. Connection currency. Oh my God, Jasmine Judge? Your loft spreads are iconic. Wait, aren't you? The pause hung, her face cycling through recognition to the obituary echo. I nodded, soft, letting the silence do the digging. Gone from one life. Starting another. Coffee. My treat. I could use some real talk after everything. We ended up at a juice bar 2 blocks over. Her turf, kale elixirs and adaptogen lattes, the kind of place where pain gets rebranded as transformation. She sipped her turmeric glow, eyes flicking to my untouched glass. Joe mentioned you. The way he lit up talking about your work. And then losing you? It's shattered him. He's been coming to my sessions, grounding through grief. Her voice dipped sympathetic, hand reaching across the formica for mine. Believer. Pure, untainted by the grime I'd unearthed. I slid the folder across, slimmed down from library printouts, just the essentials. Bank statements showing $20,000 funneled from my accounts to her wellness expansion fund, masked as anonymous donor grief grants. Then the voice memo, pulled from that synced cloud I'd clung to like a lifeline. Joe's timbre, low and laced with promise, timestamped 2 weeks back. Asterisk Lena, babe, once Jazz is settled, we'll build that retreat center together. You, me, a little one on the way, our legacy. Asterisk pregnancy promises. The one he'd whispered to her in post-Pilates haze. The same lullaby he'd crooned to me in our early days. She froze, elixir midway to her lips, color draining like ink in water. Denial first, the flinch, the laugh too bright. This can't. Joe's been so broken. He said you. It was sudden but peaceful. And the baby. We talked dreams, not plans. Her fingers trembled on the phone as the audio looped his words, that intimate timbre now a noose. Then shock rippled through, eyes widening to saucers, breath hitching in tiny gasps. He used my sessions to vent about you. How you were fading, unstable. But this, rage flickered last, a slow ember. Jaw set, knuckles whitening around her cup. That bastard. I turned down clients for his grief slots. Gave him my trust, my time, my heart. I didn't pounce. No accusations, no war cry. Just leaned in, voice steady as bedrock. He played all of us, Lena. I died for this. Clawed out of dirt he shoveled over me. Not metaphor. Real. Will you help me end him? Not with screams, but strategy. Your voice, your reach. It's the echo he can't silence. She exhaled, long and shuddering, the yogi breath weaponized. Yes. God, yes. For the dream he stole. For me. Harper next, Thursday midday. Her firm's glass tower a monolith of mirrored lies, reflecting the skyline like a false horizon. I posed as a walk-in consult. Estate planning after loss. The receptionist waving me up without a blink. Her office screamed power. Sleek desk, law tomes shelved like trophies, a view that swallowed the city. She entered brisk, pantsuit tailored sharp as her questions. Mrs. Cole? No judge. Joe mentioned the tragedy. How can I assist with the transition? No preamble. I laid the proofs on her blotter. Emails chaining her to the custody playbook, drafts labeling me cognitively impaired pre-death. My signature forged on asset flips that funneled $100,000 into her discretionary fees. The recording followed, Joe's voice, oily with feigned desperation. Asterisk Harper, you're my anchor. Once Eli's mine full-time, no more ghosts from the past. We'll celebrate properly. You deserve that corner office view with me in it. Asterisk promises of partnership, whispered in late-night reviews, the kind that blurred professional lines into personal traps. Her reaction unspooled like a verdict. Shock locked her first, pen hovering mid-note, face paling to parchment. This forgery, it's ironclad, but... Joe. He was the client, grieving, strategic. We discussed your decline clinically. Denial cracked in next, a scoff edged with frost. He paid premium for discretion. I bent rules for him. Then rage erupted, controlled but volcanic. Fists clenching files, voice a whip. That son of a... He played me like a deposition. Used my expertise to bury you legally while he... God. No fight from me. Just the mirror held steady. He played all of us, Harper. I died for this. Woke in a grave he dug. Will you help me end him? Your gavel, your filings, it's the law he'll choke on. She straightened, fire banking to focus. Damn right. Let's draft the indictment. Riley last Friday Eve. Her co-working space a hive of neon signs and energy drinks, the mixer buzzing with crypto chatter. I crashed it incognito, badge swiped from a forgotten conference lanyard, sidling up during her pitch on decentralized dreams. She was electric, ink-sleeved arms gesturing wild, voice pitching volatility as victory. Post-talk, I cornered her at the bar. Impressive ROI vision. Jasmine Judge, designer pivoting to blockchain aesthetics. Heard you're the one to know for funding flips. She grinned, clinking her IPA to my ginger ale. Flattery gets you a consult. Joe's vouched for sharp minds like yours, said you had that visionary edge before. Well, you know. The ellipsis hung, her sympathy a veneer over curiosity. Proofs dropped like market crashes. Transfer ledgers tracing $150,000 from my designs to her moonshot pool. Joe's audio sealing the tomb. Asterisk Riley firecracker, this haul's our ticket. No more waiting on a sick wife. Once she's out of the picture, it's you and me, yachts and yields. Pregnant with potential, yeah. Asterisk the baby lie again, repurposed for her ambition-fueled womb. Shock hit her like a rug pull. Staring at the screen, brew forgotten mouth agape. No way. Joe's my white knight in this bear market. Widower wisdom, he called it. Those transfers? I thought it was his inheritance seed. Denial surged, a bark of disbelief. Bullshit metrics. He promised exclusivity. Rage closed the circuit, eyes flashing like error codes, fists slamming the bar. He rugged me. My network, my rep, on the line for his ghost story. I met her blaze with calm. He played all of us, Riley. I died for this. Dirt in my lungs from his shovel. Will you help me end him? Your ledgers, your connections. It's the crash he'll never trade out of. She downed her drink, slamming the glass. HODL the grudge? Hell yes. Let's liquidate his ass. 3 days, 3 mirrors held. No blood on the floor, just packs forged in the fractures. By Saturday night, we converged in the cottage's dim basement. Once a wine cellar for Joe's pretentious tastings, now a war room lit by a single lantern's flicker. They arrived staggered, shadows slipping through the back door. Lena with herbal teas masking her nerves, Harper with a leather folio of prelim filings, Riley clutching a laptop humming with dark web dives. We sat cross-legged on threadbare rugs, a circle of unlikely exhumers. The air thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth from my half-dug, escape hatch, outside. No fanfare. I cued the audio on the burner, volume low but lethal. Joe's voice, captured from a gala voicemail I'd intercepted via Harper's subpoena-light hack. Asterisk ladies, it's Joe. Listen, the dust settles soon. Jazz's estate clears next week. Cayman's charters booked, solo sail. No baggage, just blue water and banked gains. You three. Grateful for the ride, but this captain flies alone. Asterisk laughter followed, champagne slurred and smug. Freedom tastes like victory. The room went tomb still. Lena's hand flew to her throat, a silent sob. Harper's nails dug into her folio, drawing invisible lines of indictment. Riley's laugh, hollow hacked, broke first. Rug pull of the century. I watched them fracture, then reform. He played all of us. I said, voice the anchor. I died for this. Will you help me end him? Nods rippled, fierce and final. Allies forged from his forgeries. Then Riley leaned forward, eyes gleaming in the lantern's glow. I already know where he's hiding the money. Riley's words hung in the lantern's amber haze like a lit fuse, sparking the air between us. I already know where he's hiding the money. Her laptop screen glowed feral blue, casting shadows that danced across our faces. 4 women exhumed from the same deceit, now architects of its collapse. The cottage basement, with its vaulted stone walls and racks of dusty bottles, felt less like a tomb and more like a command center. Harper's legal pads splayed open like battle maps, Lena's essential oils diffusing a faint eucalyptus calm against the rod of revelation, my own sketches, hastily inked timelines of Joe's unraveling, pinned to a corkboard scavenged from upstairs. We'd come here not to mourn, but to mine. And Riley, with her hacker's intuition honed on blockchain ledgers, was our canary in the coal-black veins of his empire. Show us, I said, voice a low rumble, steady as the earth settling after a quake. She pivoted the screen, fingers flying like spiders across keys. VPNs layered thick, proxies bouncing us through servers in Estonia and Singapore. No brute force. This was surgical, a ghost in the wires. Joe's accounts cracked open like a geode, revealing not glitter, but rot. Shell companies nested like Russian dolls, each one a front for siphoned funds. We started with the obvious. Our joint banking portal, now his solo vault. Transfers spiderwebbed out. $75,000 to Coal Compassion Fund, a charity he'd launched in my honor post-obituary. Fake as fool's gold. Harper cross-referenced tax filings she'd pulled from public dockets. The fund had 0 disbursements, all inflows funneled to Joe's consulting fees. Donations in Jasmine's memory, the website crooned, photos of me airbrushed serene, while the back-end ledger laughed. $40,000 to offshore crypto wallets, masked as administrative mercy missions. Scams on scams, Riley muttered, her tattoos shifting like code in the lamplight as she drilled deeper. Crypto was her domain, and Joe's fingerprints were everywhere. NFT drops peddled as grief art collectives, proceeds vanishing into pump-and-dump schemes. One thread led to a widower's recovery DAO, promising blockchain therapy for the bereaved. Investors, lured by his tearful TikToks, poured in $200,000. Half evaporated into wash trades, the rest? Traced to a Cayman trust under a pseudonym, Elias Legacy Holdings. My son's name, twisted into his escape hatch. Lena leaned in, her breath a hiss. He told my followers it was for holistic healing retreats. I promoted it, God, I shilled his lie. Her hand pressed to her abdomen. A fleeting gesture I clocked but didn't press. Not yet. Harper's turn, the legal sieve. She uploaded scanned docs from her briefcase. Subpoena light pulls from county clerks, greased by a junior associate's favor. Forged wills unfurled like burial shrouds. Mine, amended weeks before the grave, leaving everything to Joe as my devoted guardian. Signatures mimicked mine with eerie precision. AI-assisted, Riley confirmed, cross-checked against public design patents. He's been probate shopping, Harper said, her voice a prosecutor's scalpel. Quiet filings in 3 states, contingency plans if one jurisdiction snagged. And look here, the codicil. He positioned himself as executor, with veto on Eli's trusts until majority +5. No oversight. Clean sweep. The web tightened as we tugged, threads snapping back to bite. Fake charities ballooned into a syndicate. Donations rerouted to art therapy NGOs that dissolved overnight. Crypto scams layered with Ponzi echoes. Early investors paid from later marks. Joe's charm the bait. We mapped it on my sketches, arrows looping like veins engorged with venom. Joe's networks exposed. Brokers in Belize, influencers on retainer, Lena's contacts flushing with shame. Even a shady PI firm billing for asset protection surveillance. On me pre-poison, tailing my erratic moods for the custody play. Then my dive. The folder Riley cracked was personal. Joe's encrypted drive, mirrored from a cloud sync he'd overlooked in his haste. Password, Jazz and Joe Eternal. Cliché to the grave. Files bloomed. Medical records, falsified psych evals dated months back, stamped by a consultant therapist, whose license Harper flagged as lapsed. Asterisk patient exhibits signs of delusional ideation, exacerbated by professional stress. Recommendation, conservatorship pending incapacity. Asterisk incapacity. The fog he'd dosed into me, documented as decline. Affidavits drafted, witnesses lined up, colleagues primed with whispers of my burnout spirals. Eli's pediatrician nudged toward maternal instability notes. He'd planned to declare me mentally unfit before her death, paving the grave with legal lilies. Institutionalization first, then the quiet fade. Mercy killing by bureaucracy, my designs auctioned as therapeutic divestment. Eli remanded to his stable care. I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat monitor flatlining. Not just murder. Erasure. Me, reduced to a footnote in his competency hearing. The room blurred, fury coiling hot in my gut. Not grief's wet ache, but a dry, cracking blaze. I slammed the laptop shut, the echo sharp as a spade on stone. He didn't just bury my body. He was going to bury my mind first. Make me the madwoman in the attic, raving about shadows he cast. Silence stretched brittle. Lena shifted, her face paling to ash in the low light. Jasmine, there's more. Her voice cracked, hand now openly cradling her midsection. That promise he made me? The little one on the way? It wasn't just talk. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. Told him last month. Thought it was our future. He said he'd handle everything, make it official after you. Shock rippled through us. Harper's pen stilled mid-note, Riley's scrolling froze. Pregnant. Joe's seed, planted in the soil of his lies, now a fragile root in her. The weight hit like compacted earth, not breaking me, but forging something unyielding. I rose, pacing the cold flagstones, boots echoing my pulse. Fury, not tears, welled up, spilling over in a voice gone glacial. Each word a frost-laced vow. This child will not be born into a lie. We end him before he disappears. The women nodded, eyes hardening to flint. The web was mapped, the lies exhumed. Tomorrow, we'd pull the first thread. But tonight, in that basement crypt, our alliance pulsed alive. A heartbeat against the dark, ready to choke his out. The basement air hung heavy with our shared exhale, my vow. This child will not be born into a lie. Echoing off the stone like a chisel's final strike. Lena's hand stayed pressed to her belly, a silent sentinel, while Harper methodically stacked her docs into a war chest briefcase, and Riley minimized her screens with a grim nod. We'd exhumed the web. Now came the unraveling. No grand gestures, no headlines screaming resurrection. Selective leaks, anonymous as roots creeping through cracks. The first strike would be a tremor, not the quake. Enough to shift the ground under Joe's feet, make him question the soil he'd so carefully packed. By dawn, we dispersed like smoke. Harper to her firm for pro bono prep. Lena to a private scan confirming the heartbeat we all vowed to shield. Riley vanishing into digital ether with encrypted drives. Me, back to the shadows of the retreat, the grave site now my canvas. I waited for full dark, then knelt in the mud. Still soft from that storm night. Phone in hand, flash suppressed to a ghost glow. Snap. The yawning hole, edges crumbled like accusations. My silk scrap from the nightgown fluttering in the breeze like a flag of the forsaken. No face, no fingerprints. Just the void he'd filled with me. The image uploaded to a burner email, routed through Riley's proxy chain, addressed to 3 press contacts I'd culled from my old Rolodex. Arts beat reporters who'd fawned over my designs, now sniffing charity scandals like blood in the water. Subject: a hole in the Cole Compassion Fund. Attached: redacted ledgers showing the grief grants, vanishing into voids, cross-referenced with public donation logs. Body text sparse. Asterisk follow the dirt. Not all memorials are what they seem. Asterisk no byline, no demands, just seeds planted in fertile outrage. By morning, as I nursed black coffee in the cottage's chill kitchen, the ripples hit. My own anonymous feeds, monitored via library VPN, lit up. Arts Insider tweet storm. Asterisk trouble at Cole's Widow Fund? Sources say donations diverted. Where's the compassion? Asterisk replies snowballed. Investors tagging Joe, donors demanding audits. Harper texted a secure line. Asterisk filed preliminary injunction on the charity. IRS pinged, freeze incoming, asterisk. Joe's accounts began to freeze like veins icing over. Riley's alerts pinged first. Crypto wallets locked mid-trade, exchanges flagging suspicious provenance on the NFT drops. Then the banks, joint relics he'd commandeered. Slapped holds on outflows, compliance bots sniffing the forged SIGs we'd flagged via Harper's Whisper network. Investment partners panicked in waves. The Belize broker emailing Joe's alias in all caps. Asterisk recover funds or litigate. Your call. Asterisk the PI firm, spooked by reporter calls, ghosted his voicemails. I pictured him in the loft, that skyline view now a cage of ringing phones, his megawatt grin fracturing into forced assurances. Misunderstanding, folks, just a glitch in the matrix. But the matrix was us, threads pulled taut. He suspected betrayal, of course. Paranoia was his perfume. Snippets leaked through Riley's taps. Frantic calls to Lena, voice laced with that oily plea. Asterisk babe, you hear about this noise? Someone's stirring old pots. Must be a jealous ex-client of Jazz's. Stick with me. We'll weather it. Asterisk she played along, voice honeyed with feigned concern, feeding him just enough rope. To Harper. Asterisk you see this crap online? Bet it's that rival firm gunning for custody angles. Tighten the filings, yeah. Asterisk her replies clipped, professional frost. Asterisk reviewing. Discretion advised. Asterisk and Riley? He cornered her at a virtual mixer, screen shared in panic mode. Asterisk firecracker, these freezes, it's sabotage. You got ears in the blockchain. Asterisk she laughed it off, dangling false leads. Asterisk on it, Captain. Maybe a bad fork. Asterisk he bought it, every time, mistresses as marks, not mirrors. Never once did Jasmine cross his lips in suspicion. I was the ghost he'd interred, not the gale rattling his windows. Dead women tell no tales, after all. But I would whisper from the grave. The reveals started slow, spectral, escalating the haunt without the howl. First, the photo, emailed to his private line from a spoof sender. Asterisk from the groundskeeper. Asterisk the image loaded on his end, time-stamped midnight. That empty maw in the earth, caption shallow secrets surface. His reply? A deleted draft Riley snagged. Asterisk who the hell is this? Wrong number. Asterisk panics first bloom. Next, the recording. Me, that resurrection night. Voice memo captured on the burner as I clawed upward. Muffled gasps. Dirt cascading like accusations. The wet scrape of nails on wood. Sent as an audio attachment, innocuous title. Echo from the retreat. No words, just the primal symphony of survival. His voicemails spiked after. To his lawyer, voice cracking at the edges. Asterisk check the property logs. Someone's messing with the site. Sabotage tied to the leaks. Asterisk. The whisper came last, dawn's edge, when his guard might sag. I drove the service road to Willow Creek's edge, close enough to ping his cell without trace. Riley's voice modulator layering my timbre with distortion, a veil of static and shadow. The message delivered as a ghost call, no ring, straight to inbox. My breath, ragged but resolute, 3 words uncoiling like smoke from soil. You buried the wrong woman. No more. Click. Silence to swallow him whole. I imagined the loft then, curtains drawn against the rising sun. Eli shuttled to school with a sitter's blind smile. Joe pacing marble floors in boxers and bewilderment. Phones silenced. Browser history a frenzy of reverse image searches on the grave pic. Audio waveforms dissected for clues. Betrayal from the women? Possible. Lena's grief too raw lately, Harper's emails clipped, Riley's trade stalling. But me? Alive? That was the stuff of his nightmares, not news feeds. He'd chalk it to a prank, a rival's psyop, double down on the charm offensive. Press release drafted, cold compassion. Transparent as always, partners placated with IOU lunches. Suspect everyone but the corpse he'd certified. By noon, the tremors peaked. Riley's feet exploded. Asterisk breaking, coal accounts frozen amid fraud probes. Investors flee, widowers woe scheme. Asterisk Joe's inner circle fracturing, texts flying. Pull out now, what the hell, Joe? He fired back, voice memos laced with sweat. Asterisk hold tight, it's a hit job. We'll sue. Asterisk but the ground shifted, inexorable, his empire tilting on the axis I'd nudged. That evening, as I watched from the cottage window, binocs trained on the distant loft lights flickering like a faltering pulse, a final alert chimed. Security cam feed, hacked via Harper's firm connections. Joe in the living room, glass in hand, staring at his phone. The whisper message replaying on loop, his face draining to clay. He staggered, one hand clutching the mantle. Our wedding photo still propped there, my smile a serene specter. Then, knees buckled, body folding to the rug in a heap of limbs and shattered scotch. Mouth agape, a raw keen tearing free. Jasmine. The scream echoed through the feed, primal as my own from the grave. He collapsed fully, curling fetal. Name wrenched from him like a root from reluctant earth. Alive. The word he'd never utter, but felt now bone deep. I lowered the binocs, breath steady. The first strike landed. But the war? It was just breaking ground. Joe's scream lingered in the hacked feed like a root torn free. Raw, reverberating, the first crack in his polished sepulcher. Jasmine. Not a plea, but a profanation, as if naming the dead could banish the specter. I watched him thrash on the rug, limbs flailing like a man drowning in open air, until the sitter's footsteps pulled him upright. Mask snapped back into place. Just a nightmare, kiddo, daddy's fine. Lies layered fresh over the fissure. But the fissure was ours now, widened by whispers and wires. The first strike had drawn blood. The next would drain him dry. By midday, his panic calcified into calculus. Riley's taps lit up with invites. Encrypted texts to Lena, Harper, Riley, * emergency huddle. Loft. 8 p.m. sharp. No phones. Trust me, this glitch ends tonight. * regain control, he'd think, corral the herd before they stampeded. One of you talked, the subtext seethed, paranoia his new cologne. We let him stew, responses scripted in our basement cipher. Lena's here for you, always, laced with a heart emoji like bait on a hook. Harper's discretion assured. See you then, crisp as a summons. Riley's * got your back, cap. Moonshot recovery. * we painted loyalty in broad strokes, veiling the venom beneath. The loft awaited like a stage set for tragedy. Our old kingdom, now his folly, skyline mocking through those floor-to-ceiling panes. I slipped in first, hours early, via the service elevator. Harper's firm access unlocked. A ghost in the walls, padding silent to the wine closet off the kitchen. Hidden among the racks, vintages he'd uncorked to toast my legacy. A micro-recorder nestled in an empty bottle's shadow, wireless feed piping to my burner in the alley below. No cameras, audio only, confessions carved in sound waves. The women arrived staggered as planned. Lena at 7:45, yoga bag slung like camouflage, slipping me a nod through the cracked door. Harper at 7:55, briefcase clutched like a shield, murmuring positions set as she palmed a decoy USB. Riley last, at 8:05, laptop bag humming with false trails, winking showtime before vanishing into the guest bath to freshen up. We weren't the confrontation he braced for. No coven of scorned sirens, no blades bared in the lamplight. Deception instead, elaborate as a mausoleum frieze. Let him believe the betrayal bloomed inward, one viper among the nest. The script was mine, sketched in the cottage's gloom, divide to exhume. Lena played the fulcrum, wide-eyed innocent. Grief guru fraying at the edges, primed to crack under his charm offensive. When the elevator dinged at 8 sharp, we melted into roles. Me, the invisible architect, crouched in the walk-in pantry adjacent to the living room. Door ajar, a finger's width for the feed, heart a steady drum against the dark. Joe emerged from the master suite, disheveled elegance. Shirt untucked, eyes red-rimmed from the night's unraveling, Scotch tumbler sweating in his grip. Ladies, he boomed, that megawatt falter now a flicker, ushering them to the sectional like supplicants to a throne. Thank God you're here. This sabotage, it's killing me. Accounts locked, partners bailing. Someone's feeding the press, twisting my grief into garbage. His gaze swept them, probing for the fracture. Lena on the ottoman, knees tucked vulnerable. Harper cross-legged on the rug, folio open like a confessional. Riley sprawled in the armchair, screen glowing with decoy data. Harper struck first, our cue, voice edged with barrister bite. We've seen the headlines, Joe. The charity freeze? Those transfers flagged as fraud. It's not a glitch, it's targeted. And that audio leak, the one with the digging? Creepy as hell. She slid the USB across the coffee table, labeled pantry footage, property cam. Bait. Grainy clips we'd doctored, Riley's handiwork, shadowy figures at the retreat's edge, blurred enough to suggest a rival PI staking the grave. He snatched it, plugging into his laptop with jittery grace. The footage rolled. Indistinct shapes milling the treeline, whispers of coals digging his own hole. Joe's face tightened, jaw grinding quartz. See. Sabotage. One of Jazz's old clients, maybe, bitter about a commission. But us. We're solid. Right. Eyes on Lena now, soft as a lure. You've been my rock, babe. Those sessions, they kept me sane. Lena quivered, script flawless. Hand to her throat, voice a tremolo of feigned fracture. Joe, I want to be. But the pressure, it's cracking me. That promise you made, about the baby, the retreat? With the leaks, I'm scared. What if it's one of us? What if someone's talking? She let tears well, glistening like dew on a wilted bloom, the hook sinking deep. He leaned in, predator's pivot, hand on her knee, voice dropping to that intimate velvet. Hey no, it's not you. Never you. A beat, then the probe, suspicion shifting to the flanks. But Riley, those crypto freezes started after your last mixer. And Harper, your firm's got ears everywhere. Custody docs going south. Smells like a leak. Riley bristled on cue, laptop snapping shut like a trap. Excuse me? I'm the one tracing the rug pulls. Your Dow was a dumpster fire waiting to ignite. Blame me for cleaning your mess. Harper interjected icy. And my filings? Ironclad until your forgeries surfaced. If anyone's exposed, it's the man who forged a dead wife's will. The fracture bloomed, his design our deception. Joe paced, tumbler clinking like chains, the recorder drinking it all. Every slur, every shift. Fine. You want truth. It was all contingency. Jazz God, she was fading. The fog, the instability. I documented it for Eli's sake. Conservatorship first, then mercy. The tea, just to ease her out gentle. No pain. The grave, quicker than courts, cheaper than creams. And the money, ours now, hers was always half mine. The scams, survival. Charity's a front, crypto's the float to the Caymans. Solo, you three. Distractions. Sweet, useful. Lena, that baby talk kept you hooked. Harper, your briefs bought time. Riley, your yields funded the flight. But Eli, mine. The empire, mine. I buried her to build it. Confession uncoiled like smoke from a fresh dug pit. Every vein of the web laid bare, voice rising in ragged justification, the recorder's red light unseen in the bottle's throat. Lies exhumed layer by loathsome layer. The dosed chamomile ratios, the forged evals backdates, the Cayman charter's coordinates. No remorse, just the chill calculus of a man who'd mistaken love for leverage. The women held, statues in the storm. Lena's tears drying to salt tracks, Harper's pen idle on incriminating notes, Riley's fingers twitching toward her hidden kill switch on the decoys. Joe's exhale came ragged, spent, as if voicing the void had lightened the load. There. Out. Now we fix it together. Leaks contained. We spin the narrative. Partners again. Silence stretched, taut as a shroud. Then, from the pantry's shadow, my whisper slithered through the cracked door. Soft, spectral, the first breath of the gale. Partners in the grave? He whirled, glass shattering on marble, face crumpling to recognition's ruin. But before the scream could birth, sirens wailed distant, rising like a dirge from the street below. Harper's prepped call to dispatch, tipped on the charity fraud, closing the net. Blue lights pulsed through the panes, tires screeching to a halt curbside. The women rose, united in the hush, ready to vanish into the night as the noose tightened. I stepped from the shadows then, red dress flowing like spilled arterial, eyes locked on his paling horror. The recorder clicked off, confession sealed. Police hammered the door. Asterisk, Mr. Cole? Open up. Asterisk, but I raised a hand, stilling the alliance. Voice cold as clay-packed lungs. Not yet. His soul isn't broken. The sirens wailed closer, a banshee chorus slicing the night, blue veins pulsing through the loft's veins of glass. Joe's eyes bulged, darting from the door to us, his partners, his betrayers, mouth working soundless pleas as the hammer blows rattled the frame. Asterisk police. Open up, Mr. Cole. Asterisk the women held formation. Lena a statue of serene fury, Harper's hand hovering near her phone's silent alarm, Riley's fingers ghosting the decoy USB like a detonator. I stood unmoving in the pantry's threshold, red silk whispering against my skin like shed grave clothes. The recorder's confession warm in my pocket. A heart excised, still beating with his sins. Not yet, I murmured, the words of frost across the chaos. His soul isn't broken. One glance from me, and Harper tapped her screen. Dispatch looped to voicemail, the net yawning open just enough for his gasp. The pounding paused, voices murmuring outside. Asterisk false alarm? Stand by. Asterisk Joe's exhale came ragged, knees buckling anew as he clutched the mantle, our wedding photo toppling with a crystalline shatter. What are you? He rasped, gaze fixed on me like I was the grave itself, risen and ravenous. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. The deception had done its work. His words, wired and waiting, would bloom tomorrow like nightshade in the press. We slipped out the fire escape as one, shadows melting into the alley's maw, leaving him to the silence he'd sown. By dawn, the headlines would choke him. Asterisk Cole's confession? Leaked audio alleges fraud in widow's name. Asterisk, but tonight? We let him breathe. Let him claw for one last illusion of control. He clawed hard. The gala invite hit our inboxes by noon. Asterisk, a night for new beginnings. Honoring Jasmine Judge's legacy at the Cole estate. Asterisk, our former retreat, that wooded folly turned mausoleum, now his stage for absolution. Join us in the grand hall. Under the stars that watched her light shine, the embossed card crooned, RSVP laced with desperation. Charity for grief innovation. He'd spin it. Funds for the very scams we'd gutted, a phoenix act from his ash heap. Harper's contacts confirmed. A-listers bust in, donors wooed with whispers of tragic resilience. The press corralled for soft focus redemption. Eli mercifully boarded at camp. Asterisk summer extension. Jazz would want him dreaming big. Asterisk the note read. Joe's final lie to our son, a shield we'd pierce later. Twilight bled into the estate's drive as we arrived. Separate cars, separate sins. The grand hall loomed, chandeliers dripping light like melting wax. The air thick with orchids and old money's murmur. Valets in crisp livery. String quartets sawing elegies disguised as waltzes. I waited in the treeline, red gown a-slash against the dusk. Silk from my pre-grave archive, altered by Lena's steady hands into armor. High neck like a collarbone unearthed, hem trailing like roots seeking purchase. The women mingled inside. Lena a vision in emerald, channeling healing auras to wide-eyed philanthropists. Harper in midnight blue, cornering investors with veiled warnings. Riley electric in silver, her laptop swapped for a clutch humming with overrides. The screens, massive triptychs flanking the dais, hummed innocuous. Looping montages of my designs, blueprints blooming into ballrooms. Joe took the stage at 9, spotlight carving him from shadow, tucks a second skin over his fraying frame. The crowd hushed, glasses raised like offerings. Friends, he began, voice that velvet trap snapping taut. Tonight isn't about loss. It's about rising. From tragedy's soil, we cultivate strength. Jasmine. She designed worlds of beauty. In her name, this fund will build sanctuaries for the brokenhearted. Murmurs of approval rippled, donors nodding like hypnotized vines. He paced, megawatt grin flickering back to life, gesturing to the screens where my face smiled frozen. Pre-fog, pre-poison. To new beginnings. To freedom from. Lights out. The hall plunged to velvet black, gasps blooming like startled roots. Only the screens ignited, a trinity of cold fire. Riley's hack, seamless as a breath held too long. No preamble, no title card, just footage, raw and resurrectional. Night vision grain from the burner's timestamp. The grave's lip, earth parting like a wound reopened. My hands, pale claws, breaching the soil, nails black with loam, fingers splayed like desperate divining rods. The scrape of silk on splintered wood, the wet suck of mud yielding, my form writhing free. Shoulders emerging, torso twisting in the storm's lash, face upturned to lightning's judgment. Eyes wild, mouth agape in a silent roar. No sound at first, just the primal ballet of rebirth. Legs kicking clear, body collapsing to all fours, then rising, staggering into shadow. The crowd's hush fractured. Whispers to whimpers, a woman's scream piercing the void. Then my voiceover layered post, low, laced with the grave's gravel. He buried me alive. Not with hate, but hunger, for my designs, my son, my life. Watch me rise. Clips cascaded. The dose tea steaming innocuous, forged wills unfurling like burial wraps, his confession audio bleeding in. Asterisk the tea? Just to ease her out gentle. The grave. Quicker than quartz, asterisk, his own words, damning daisy chain. The screens pulsed, relentless, the hall a tomb of suspended breath. Spotlight snapped back, but not to him. To the double doors, flung wide by unseen hands. Me. In red, striding the aisle like judgment incarnate. Gown flowing arterial, hair unbound like roots after rain. Eyes locked on the dais where Joe stood petrified. The room screamed then, a cacophony of horror and revelation. Chairs toppling, champagne flutes shattering, donors clutching pearls like rosaries. Jasmine? Impossible. She's alive. Chaos crested, a wave crashing against the walls, flashes popping from press pockets like erratic lightning. Joe's face. Oh, the unraveling. Color fled to ghost pale, mouth gaping on his half-swallowed toast, eyes bulging as if the grave itself gaped at his feet. He stumbled back, microphone screeching feedback like a banshee's wail. The crowd's roar fading to a stunned hush as I ascended the steps, deliberate, unyielding. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, voice amplified through Riley's override, steady as bedrock. "The real charity tonight is truth. Joe Cole didn't just steal my legacy. He tried to bury it, with me inside. He bolted then, lurching off stage, Tuck's tails flapping like fledgling wings, toward the wings where shadows promised escape. But the hall was a coliseum now, bodies parting in horrified awe, his path a gauntlet of stairs. He made 3 strides, then faltered, knees buckling like sodden earth. Collapse came total. Body folding to the polished oak, hands clawing at the boards as sobs wrenched free, guttural and graceless. Jasmine, please. Mercy. I was trapped. The fog, your illness, it broke me. Eli needs me. Forgive." The plea dissolved into blubber, face pressed to floorboards that once danced under our feet. His empire's emperor reduced to a worm in the dirt. The women flanked the stage now. Lena's hand on her belly, Harper's briefcase open to affidavits, Riley's clutch purring with final feeds. Our army, assembled in the light he'd tried to eclipse. I stepped toward him, red soles clicking like spadefuls on soil, the crowd's silence a held breath in the crypt. Towering over his crumpled form, I leaned close, voice a whisper carried crystal by the mic. "Mercy died when you buried me." Joe's sobs pooled on the stage like spilled ink, staining the oak where we'd once danced to string quartets, his pleas a mudslide of half-formed excuses. Eli. The business. I loved you, Jazz, in my way. The crowd's screams had ebbed to a stunned murmur, a sea of silk and shock parting around us like soil yielding to roots. The women stood sentinel. Lena's hand a quiet vow on her swell, Harper's folio a tome of reckonings, Riley's clutch a humming hive of data drops. I loomed over him, red gown a cascade of congealed twilight, the mic still hot with my whisper. "Mercy died when you buried me. No blade, no blow, just the weight of my shadow, heavy as the earth he'd packed atop me." He reached, fingers grub-like, grazing my hem before recoiling as if burned. The grave's chill clung to my skin, a perfume he knew too well. But Mercy's corpse wasn't the only one stirring that night. As the chandeliers flickered back to mocking life, Riley's overrides hummed beneath the floorboards. Feeds piping straight to Harper's contacts at the DA's office, the IRS fraud squad. Even a tip line at the FBI's white-collar crypt. The confession audio from the loft, that basement web of wills and scams, the grave footage looping eternal. All bundled in an anonymous cascade, timestamps ironclad, proxies labyrinthine. "Follow the dirt," the cover note read, echoing my first leak like a refrain from the underworld. Federal agencies didn't dawdle. They excavated. By dawn, as the gala's remnants, shattered stems and sodden programs, littered the hall like offerings to a fallen god, the warrants bloomed. The arrest came at sunrise, a spectacle scripted in blue and gold. I watched from the tree-lean, binocs trained on the drive where cruisers snarled like wolves at the gate. Joe, bleary from a night of bourbon and breakdowns, stumbled out in yesterday's tux, hair a thatch of defeated straw. Eli's forgotten toy truck clutched like a talisman in his fist. "Just picking up my son," he babbled to the lead agent, a woman with eyes like quarry stone. But the cuffs clicked before the lie landed. Cold steel on wrists that had once poured my tea. "Joseph Cole, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit identity theft." Flashes popped from the press vans we'd tipped, headlines birthing in real time. "Widower's widow rises." Cole cuffed in charity chaos. He thrashed, not with fight but fracture, screaming my name again, Jazz. "Jazz, tell them, Mercy." As they bundled him into the maw of the squad car. The estate's drive, once our escape to Eli's laughter, now a gauntlet to his undoing. Federal vans followed, agents sealing the hall like a crime scene. Servers seized, safes cracked, the grave itself taped off as evidence of the literal and the ledgers. He buried my body. I buried his legacy. The leaks didn't stop at cuffs, they cascaded to the core. Treasury froze his shells, SEC gutted the crypto cons. Interpol pinged the Cayman Charter as a flight risk. Partners scattered like startled crows. Donors sued for restitution. The Cole Compassion Fund rebranded overnight as a case study in predatory philanthropy. Eli, shielded in a trust Harper ironclad ed before the ink dried. Full custody mine, his world buffered by camp counselors and my gradual return, spun as a miraculous recovery abroad. No headlines for him, just quiet repatriation. Mommy's back stronger, sketching treehouses anew. The women rose from the rot, each unearthing her own dawn. Lena, the wellness whisperer, channeled her grief glow into a foundation. Asterisk roots of resilience. Asterisk retreats for women clawing from betrayal's soil. Her pregnancy a bloom not buried but broadcast. A daughter named Iris, born under solstice light, co-parented with a partner who poured tea without tincture. Harper traded corner offices for a legal aid clinic, sanctuary signatures, forging shields for the forsaken. Pro bono wills, custody carves. Her own scars etched into statutes that bit back at men like Joe. Riley flipped her rugged yields into a venture fund, Phoenix pools, seeding women-led blockchains. No pumps, just sustainable surges, her ink-sleeved arms now inked with equity deals that outlasted his deceptions. Financial justice flowed like reclaimed aquifers. Settlements from the scams, restitution from the charity husks, my designs repatriated with royalties that reigned. Freedom. Not absolution, but agency. Lev's rewritten not in his margins, but our bold strokes. And me. I didn't rebuild the life we'd sketched together. That polished loft, the client dinners under chandeliers, the partnership etched in marble. No, I chose the fracture lines, the fertile faults where roots find purchase. The retreat became Haven Designs, a firm carving safe spaces. Shelters woven from reclaimed wood, interiors that whispered rise to women mid-resurrection. Soft corners for bruised blueprints, windows framing not skylines, but horizons. Eli thrived in the chaos I curated. Homeschool pods with Lena's yoga flows, coding camps with Riley's riddles, court mocks with Harper's gavel games. He asked once, eyes wide as saucers over pancakes, "Mommy, were you really buried?" I knelt, flour-dusted hands framing his face. I was planted, baby. And look, I'm blooming. No shadows for him, just soil turned to garden. Joe. The cells suited him, a 6x9 plot of concrete and regret. No visitors after the sentencing. 15 to life, stacked charges like spadefuls. Attempted murder for the tea and the grave. Fraud for the fortunes filched, child endangerment for the son he'd pawned in his plots. Appeals drowned in evidence, his charm curdled to counselors' notes. Patient exhibits delusional ideation, claims a ghost orchestrated his fall. He wrote once, through bars and bureaucracy, a scrawl begging closure. I burned it in the estate's old hearth, ashes stirred into the garden beds. Let him rot in the light of day, where ghosts have no purchase. He buried my body. I buried his legacy. In the end, vengeance wasn't the blade or the brawl. It was the quiet cultivation of what he'd tried to choke. Roots spreading unseen, flowers unfurling fierce. The women and I, we gathered quarterly at the retreat, toasting not with his vintages, but our own brews, herbal elixirs, legal drafts, blockchain blends. Laughter echoed where screams once hid, plans sketched where plots festered. Eli chased fireflies in the woods, oblivious to the grave now grassed over, a scar softened to story. There are deaths worse than the grave, and Joe Cole is living every one of them. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.